There isn't really a deliberate approach to acting at 11 years old, and there's still not really a deliberate approach now. I just sort of winged it and continue to, and I think it's going okay.
I can't believe it actually happened. But honestly, I think it had to. HBO Max has allegedly made the decision to recast Ellie for season 3 of The Last of Us, and not quietly either.
How far down that road did you get in your mind about playing Ellie in a Last of Us film?
I think it just really felt like a big deal. And what I remember, like the highlights of that time were just going to Naughty Dog headquarters, I guess, and walking around with Neil and him showing me how the game is made.
Word is, Bella Ramsey has been fired following the total meltdown that was season 2. Let that sink in. One of the most anticipated shows in years, with one of the most beloved characters in gaming history, and they had to recast her. That's how badly this all went. Fans were loud. Review scores dipped. Memes exploded. And the studio? They finally cracked.
And I really remember all of those details. And he even showed me at one of our, I think we only really in the grand scheme of things, I think we only had 2 meetings.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just recast your lead character unless the situation is completely unsalvageable. This isn't a creative choice. It's damage control. Plain and simple. From the moment season 2 aired, viewers were shouting from every platform that something was wrong. And now HBO is trying to clean up the mess. But this all begs the question, how did it fall apart so fast? Let's break it down. Because the warning signs were everywhere. Season 2 was supposed to take everything that made the first season great and elevate it.
And the second meeting, I really remember him showing me parts of The Last of Us 2 when it was early days of getting made, which was pretty crazy. And he told me what happens, which was also crazy. I've been sitting with this secret for so long.
Basically Neil and you have known this for 12 years.
That's what we were promised. Instead, what we got was a tonal mess. The pacing was chaotic, the narrative was bloated, and the emotional arcs? Practically non-existent. Characters wandered through scenes that felt empty, and the intensity that once drove the story forward was replaced with awkward dialogue and bizarre shifts in focus. It didn't feel like a continuation, it felt like a downgrade, and the blame doesn't land on just one person.
But I was just excited to, know him and learn from him. And we did one table read, and then that's all that really happened. That's it.
Let's be clear. Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin made choices that turned a masterpiece into a misfire. It's like they got too confident. They forgot what made the source material so powerful in the first place. Raw, unfiltered storytelling that cuts deep. Instead, Season 2 felt sanitized, disconnected, safe. The emotional gut punches that made the game iconic, nowhere to be found.
That's weird, I don't know why.
Yes, you do. I'm not stupid and I'm not blind.
Fuck. Oh shit, you were guessing? Look, she's obviously gonna tell you. So just act surprised, okay? None of this has to change things between us.
They took a story known for its brutal beauty and turned it into a high-budget fan fiction. Fans didn't just notice, they revolted. Let's talk about the casting, because this is where things really started unraveling. Bella Ramsey might be a talented actor, but she was the wrong fit for Ellie.
You killed Joel. He did what he did to save me. I'm the one that there's no cure because of me. I am the one that you want. Let him go. I let you both live. And you wasted it.
Full stop. Ellie in Part 2 isn't a kid anymore. She's broken, hardened, a calculated, grief-fueled survivor who will burn the world down if it means finding justice. But what we saw in Season 2 wasn't that. Not even close. Ramsey's version lacked edge, lacked danger, lacked weight. The physicality wasn't there. The emotional depth, inconsistent at best. She didn't command the screen like Ellie should. And visually, her youthful look made the age leap feel awkward.
Everything's fine. You are,
I'm gonna be a dad.
Yeah.
Like we were watching a teenager pretend to be a battle-scarred woman. It shattered the immersion. It made every brutal scene feel performative instead of lived in. This isn't about nitpicking, it's about authenticity. And if you're adapting a game that millions of people have lived through emotionally, you better come correct. Ramsey didn't, and the show paid the price. The reaction wasn't subtle. It wasn't polite. It was an avalanche. From the moment the first trailer dropped, there was hesitation. But after the first few episodes aired, it exploded. Twitter, Reddit, TikTok, everywhere you looked, people were begging HBO to listen, to course correct, to admit they had made a mistake. Memes mocking Ramsey's delivery, side-by-side comparisons with the game. Even hardcore fans of Season 1 started jumping ship. You could feel the disappointment. People who had waited years to see Ellie's revenge arc brought to life were left with something that barely resembled it. Entire plot lines felt flat, because the lead didn't land. The showrunners could have saved it with bold writing, but they didn't. And when the viewers don't believe your main character, everything else crumbles. By mid-season, the calls for a recast were everywhere. And now it looks like HBO finally got the message. But it came too late for Season 2. The damage is done. The reputation shattered. And fans, they're still furious. When the backlash first started brewing, Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann didn't flinch. They doubled down. They told everyone who would listen that Bella Ramsey was their Ellie. Period. They praised her for her depth, her maturity, and said she brought something unique to the role. They positioned it as a bold creative decision. And for a while, they stood behind it like a brick wall. But here's the thing. Passionate speeches and media quotes don't erase what's happening on the screen. And while the showrunners were out doing interviews and explaining why Ramsey was perfect for the part, fans were sitting at home not buying it. Every time Ellie was supposed to explode with rage or collapse under the weight of grief, and didn't, the audience felt it. Every time a pivotal scene landed with a thud instead of a punch, they remembered. You can talk all day about vision and artistic direction, but the numbers don't lie. Viewer engagement slipped. Ratings dropped. The conversation around the show turned sour. Mazin and Druckmann might have believed in their casting, but their audience didn't. And that disconnect, it's what broke the momentum of the entire season. By the finale, the defense was no longer convincing. It was just noise. If there was ever a moment to silence the critics and stick the landing, it was the Season 2 finale. This was their chance to prove that all the buildup, all the subtle tension, all the controversial choices had been worth it. But instead of redemption, what fans got was confusion, and in some cases, actual laughter. The final scenes were meant to be devastating. They were supposed to leave us stunned, gutted, breathless, but that's not what happened. Viewers took to social media, saying the tone was all over the place. Dialogue that was meant to feel heavy came off awkward, and Bella's final monologue, it didn't hit. It didn't even echo the soul-crushing moments we experienced in the game. It felt like a hollow reenactment. There were even viral clips, mocking the delivery. People comparing the final sequence to a high school drama club skit. Harsh, maybe, but that's where we were. You could practically feel the secondhand embarrassment. The entire season had built to a moment that fizzled, instead of exploded. And when your finale becomes a meme, you know you've lost the thread. Then came the rumor that shocked everyone, but also felt inevitable. HBO Max had allegedly decided to recast Ellie for Season 3. Just like that, the network was walking away from the actor they once said was irreplaceable. And while nothing official has been confirmed publicly, the word is everywhere. Insiders say they're already looking for a new lead, someone who can bring Ellie's darkness, grit, and emotional depth to life in a way that actually sticks. The reaction? Mixed, but loud. Some fans cheered, saying it was the right call. Others warned that changing actors mid-series could fracture the continuity. But one thing is clear. HBO knows they can't afford another misstep. This isn't about ego anymore. It's about survival. The Last of Us is one of the most iconic game franchises in history, and the show had the potential to be just as legendary. But the casting misfire derailed everything. Now they're trying to salvage what's left. The alleged recast isn't just about fixing Season 2. It's about reclaiming the show's reputation before it's too late. Because if they get Ellie wrong again, there might not be a Season 4. So where does the series even go from here? Let's be honest. This alleged recast is more than just a casting decision. It's a full-on reset button. It signals that HBO knows they messed up, that they heard the outrage, that they saw the numbers drop, the memes flood the internet, and the fans walk away mid-season. And now, They're scrambling to put the fire out. But here's the reality. The future of The Last of Us depends entirely on what happens next. Season 3 has to be perfect. Not good, not decent, perfect. They're not just continuing a story anymore. They're rebuilding trust. That means giving us an Ellie who burns with fury, with grief, with the kind of presence that grabs you by the throat and refuses to let go. It means respecting the source material and understanding that this fan base is not forgiving. We've already seen what happens when the character isn't done justice. If Season 3 delivers, maybe, just maybe, they salvage this. But if they fumble again, it's over. The legacy, the viewership, the critical acclaim, all of it will vanish like it never existed. That's how high the stakes are now. And the fans? They're not waiting patiently. They're watching, closely. There's a reason people still talk about The Last of Us Part 2, years later. It's not just the story. It's the feeling. That white-hot, gut-churning, blood-boiling feeling of watching Ellie go from a grieving daughter to a relentless force of destruction. That journey, twisted, tragic, and unforgettable, is why the game is a masterpiece. But the show, it gave us shadows, smoke, a hint of what could have been. They dulled Ellie's edges. They softened her stare. They turned volcanic fury into a few dramatic glances and whispered lines. That's not Ellie. That's not the girl who went through hell and came back with blood on her hands and nothing left to lose. Bella Ramsey didn't bring the chaos. She didn't bring the fear. She didn't bring the scars, emotional or physical, that Ellie wears like armor in the game. And when you take away all that fire, you're left with a character who feels more like a placeholder than a powerhouse. That's why fans revolted. Not because they hate change, but because they loved the original too much to accept a pale imitation. Now here's where things start to get even messier. Nobody's gone public, but the industry's been buzzing. The whispers started around mid-season, and they haven't stopped since. Rumors of constant reshoots. Directors allegedly frustrated that key emotional scenes had to be redone over and over again because the tone just wasn't hitting. Some sources even say key members of the production team began second-guessing the casting halfway through filming. Think about that. You're deep into production, and you're already realizing this isn't working. But what can you do? You're locked in. Millions of dollars spent. Marketing already out in the world. You can't turn back. So what happens? You play defense. You tweak scenes. You change edits. You try to coach performance in post. And when it finally airs, it still doesn't land. The criticism hits harder than anyone expected. The memes get cruel. The threads get long. And internally, the vibe flips. Suddenly, no one's excited about Season 3. Everyone's worried. That's why the alleged recast isn't just a creative shakeup. It's a desperate attempt to stabilize a sinking ship. Behind the scenes, this wasn't just bad optics. It was a full-blown identity crisis. And now they're trying to patch the holes before the whole thing goes under. But will it work? Or is it already too late? Let's stop pretending this is just about a recast. This is wartime triage. HBO Max is in the middle of a reputational crisis with The Last of Us, and they know it. This isn't like swapping out a side character or refreshing a look. It's replacing the very soul of the show. And when that soul is fractured, you don't get many chances to piece it back together. They're not just trying to win new viewers. They're fighting to earn back the fans who already left. The players who lived this story through a controller and felt every heartbeat of Ellie's journey. The ones who shut off the TV halfway through Season 2 and muttered, "Nope, this ain't it." And you can't win those people back with clever PR or behind-the-scenes featurettes. You win them back with truth, with risk. With emotional storytelling so intense, it makes you forget there was ever a misstep in the first place. But here's the brutal truth. If they mess this up again, if Season 3 fails to deliver, it's over. Not just for this version of the show, but for its place in the cultural conversation. It'll go from groundbreaking adaptation to the show that almost got it right. A cautionary tale, a wasted opportunity. And honestly, that would sting more than anything, because the ingredients for greatness are all still there. The world, the lore, the characters, the potential. But none of that matters if the execution doesn't rise to the occasion. This next season has to be flawless. A roaring return to form, brutal, unapologetic, devastating, and real. It has to remind people why they fell in love with this story in the first place. And if it doesn't, this franchise won't go out with a bang. It'll fade out as a whisper, a legacy that could have been so much more. Because after all the hype, all the heartbreak, and all the hope, we're down to one shot. And the fans? They won't wait forever. Let's just say what everyone's thinking. If Season 3 flops, The Last of Us franchise is finished. Not wounded, not bruised, finished. This isn't some mid-tier sci-fi show you can quietly cancel. This is The Last of Us. This is sacred ground for millions of fans. And HBO already lit a match to it once. If they douse it in gasoline and light it again, there's no crawling out of that crater. You think fans were angry after Season 2? Imagine what happens if they screw up a second time. With a new actor, a new tone, and a promise to get it right. This next season isn't just a chapter. It's a referendum. If it fails, no one's watching a Season 4. No one's tuning in for spin-offs. The merch dies, the awards dry up, and the legacy, it rots. Think that's dramatic? Look at the internet. Look at how fast the conversation around this show went from TV masterpiece to total disaster. It took one season. One. That's how fragile fan trust is right now. And if they fumble this next step, the show won't just go down in flames. It'll take everything with it. The goodwill, the brand, the studio's reputation for even trying to adapt a video game again. This recast, it's the red wire and the green wire. If they cut wrong, it all explodes. And after all that buildup, all that ambition, all that potential, they'll be remembered not for making history, but for becoming a cautionary tale no one wants to talk about. Because if this blows up again, The Last of Us will be gone for good. The alleged recasting of Ellie in The Last of Us Season 3 is a bold move by HBO Max, one that acknowledges the missteps of Season 2 and aims to realign the series with its source material. While it's a controversial decision, it may be the necessary step to restore faith in the series and deliver the compelling narrative that fans have been craving. Only time will tell if this change will bring the desired impact. But for now, it offers a glimmer of hope for the future of the show.